resistance. You have to run into resistance to training in every situation, it would seem to me. Somebody who, hey, I've been doing this long enough, I don't need this.
Sure.
Is that a tough uphill battle almost every time?
You usually get that. Less from new people to the profession, because they're hungry, they're looking for information, they're willing to try anything. They don't know what doesn't work yet, if you will. You know, the people who were doing this for 30 years, oh, I tried that 27 years ago, it didn't work. Well, it's different now. Maybe it'll work now, or maybe we've got a different spin on it. Generally resistance everywhere, though. But that's why I said I like people who don't have experience and people who do, because they're both fruitful audiences for quality training.
It would seem like the resistance from the owner/manager would almost be the toughest hurdle to clear.
Can be, especially with the very experienced salespeople, right? Those businesses depend on those experienced salespeople. They're really good salespeople. They bring in a lot of customers and a lot of cash, so you don't want to cross them. You know, so can you force somebody with 30 years experience to go to a training program that you're not confident in? That's tough. If you're confident in the program, you can say to them, here's the results people are getting, even people with 30 years experience. Here's what they're going to do. Here's what you're going to come away with, because I've investigated this training program. It's a much easier sell, and maybe they come with an open mind.
So that's really something, I guess, that would be imperative on the front end, is to have the owner sell this to the players that are going to be involved in this training.
Sure. I've emphasized in my 4 R's, you know, results, right training, really training, and reinforcement, things you can do to evaluate training or afterwards. There's actually one other thing that I like to help my clients with, which is the marketing of the training, exactly what you're talking about. So that the principal can talk to their staff and say, here's the training I'm bringing in, here's why, here's what it's going to do, here's the results I expect from it. I've investigated it, please go at least with an open mind or a positive attitude towards the training. So that marketing can be very important as well. When I consult with clients, we not only talk about the training program itself, but what can we do beforehand in terms of marketing the program, and what can we do afterwards in terms of coaching and reinforcement. That's all part of the package and an optimal training strategy.
Now, and I can see that is, if that doesn't happen, it would seem like the success would be limited.
Yeah, people go in with the wrong expectations, or based on training from the last 20 years, bad expectations. You have to fight that battle and get over it. And as a trainer, you may not get over that fast enough before your session's done. So it's nice to position people in advance with information. It's only fair. You are asking them to spend their time, many of them commissioned salespeople, off the sales floor, investing in the training. It's only fair to disclose to them what they should get out of it and how you're going to do it, and that you've had some results with it.
During the audit of the salespeople, you sit down and spend time with them one-on-one?
I recommend that. I recommend first that the owner develops, based on the customer audit, a list of here's the skills I think we need in our organization. And then meet with each person one-on-one. Where would you rate yourself in these skills, right? And are there any that you think you need? I would also probably ask them, are there any you think we need, to get that larger view? Because sometimes they won't say, I need to know how to measure better, but we need to know. That means I do too, but I'm just not willing to say it. My self-image couldn't stand that admission to you, the boss, right? But here's what I think I need, here's what I think we need. You compile all that, it gives you priorities for your training, which is also valuable. Because you want to get the biggest bang for the buck, go with the highest priority.
Well, you walk away with a pretty valuable view of a particular organization after auditing the staff, I would
Yeah,
think.
absolutely. And often part of that audit process involves, you know, I mentioned audit the customers. Well, part of that audit is audit your marketing campaigns as well. Because that's the messaging you're giving to the customers, that's your brand, that's the expectations you create, so your skills have to deliver on that as well as the demographic makeup of your customer base and how many of them use social media and all the other things that might be part of a customer analysis.
I remember a conversation that we had talking about one of your seminars at Surfaces or someplace else, asking a staff, what's the best seller? And then asking the members of that staff, what their favorite product was.
Sure, that was something I did impromptu in a seminar once. It seemed like an appropriate thing to do. I had 4 people in the room, and I asked each of them what their favorite style of carpet was, you know, frisé, texture, etc. And then I asked them what sold best in their store across everybody's sales. And they did this individually and then reported their results. The 4 people each had a different favorite style of carpet, and each one of them said their personal favorite was what sold best in the store. And they all looked at each other and started scratching their heads. And the obvious conclusion was they have go-to products. That's probably the only products they're showing customers. Therefore, of course, that's what sells best in the store based on their experience. And yet, how many missed opportunities were there because they weren't giving the customer other options? Maybe the customer's need dictated some other product that they weren't using. So it was a great light bulb moment for the people in the room that said, I can expand my sales horizon if I think more broadly about options to meet the customer's needs.
But that's really a management problem. I mean,
may or may not be. In my line of work, we often talk about there's two things needed for success, will and skill. The management issue is motivation. Do you have something in your pay systems or the way you interact with people or your hiring policies that make that happen? That's the will part of it. The skill part of it might be something else. Maybe I go to that go-to product line, or maybe I only show wood but never show carpet because that's what I know best. And there might be a training need. If I increased my product knowledge across other product lines and my sales skills, including qualifying, for example, and handling objections, then I might be more prone to show other options to customers because I'm more comfortable doing that. So there could be a training need as well.
I was thinking about steering salespeople, at least make them aware, I guess, of margin. This is a better margin product. All things being equal, this would be a better recommendation. Something like that.
And there you get into the subject of communications with your staff and pay system and who gets what information about the business. In my experience, a business that shares information, at least at the gross profit level, and has a commission structure to pay its people and a variable commission rate based on profit margin probably motivates people the most and is most profitable because it drives people to sell profit, not to sell discount, for example.
So when you're sitting down with the owner, he's contemplating a sales training program, this area would be something you would talk about.
Absolutely. I always ask, are you comfortable with your profit margins? Do you have goals to increase your profit margin this year? Yeah, I want to increase my profit margin 2 points. How are you going to do that? But we're going to try hard. Well, maybe we need to try different, right? One of my favorite sayings that was definitely true during the recession, but still applies. You've heard the old saying, desperate times require. Well, desperate measures is not my answer. It's not time for desperation. Desperate times require disparate measures. Fancy word for do something different than you have been doing, and maybe you'll get a different result. So that could be part of the conversation with the owner as well.
When we started talking, I had mentioned that a lot of people have shown up for Surfaces seminars, for all of the buying groups and the mill affiliates. A lot of people showed up for training and got a good deal out of it, I would say. I'm sure a lot of them sitting here today feel guilty of the fact that they maybe haven't followed up on those like maybe they should have. That would be my observation anyway.
Yeah, I think that happens, and sometimes that's because of the design of the session. You've heard my emphasis on skill development throughout this interview, right? But not every session at those big events focuses on skill. Sometimes it's somebody who's an expert in the field telling you everything you should do, but not how to do it. And remember, some of the characteristics of quality training were the chance to apply and practice. That doesn't happen. So the other thing that people might do as they go to these sessions is to seek out sessions that are either on the exact right topic for them and might be a lecture about it, but also sessions that involve an element of teamwork and panels and discussion and practice and so forth. Paul Fredrickson and I this past year presented a session in which we did team problem solving. We posed a challenge and had the people share ideas on what has worked in their business about those challenges. And people left that session taking group pictures because they had made new friends that they could work with, real solutions to problems. A little bit different than the typical lecture by an expert. We had our own ideas that we contributed in the area of those challenges as well, but people talking to one another. So that's a characteristic you might look at when you're going to these kind of meetings and programs and industry events and group events. Seek out the sessions that have that opportunity to practice and apply what you're learning and leverage one another's expertise. Two heads are better than one.
Let me ask you about follow-up and coaching. So often, I think we hear people go to seminars, wow, this was great. They get on the plane and go home and forget everything. Or a training program takes place, it's beneficial, everybody sees the benefit, but you go back and you do the same thing you've always done. Follow through is the way, and coaching, I guess, are the ways to end that cycle.
Sure, as well as the design of the training. Because, while you were gone to that event, learning all those new techniques, things were stacking up in your office and on the floor. And so you had to deal with that, and it's tough. That's why it's important to apply and practice in a session, because if you do that, you'll have the confidence and the skill that you might be able to use it right away when you get back, and then you won't lose it. Because otherwise, all training fades over time, some faster than others. So another characteristic of a quality session is one you can use immediately upon returning.
Interesting. Let me just ask you in closing. Everybody knows the value of training walking in the door. There's no problem there, but making it work. That's the hard part. Talk about making it work and how searching the programs that you had mentioned and sitting down and deciding, okay, I'm going to take a step forward and do this. Talk about that.
Yeah, I'll briefly recap the 4 characteristics of quality training, and then we'll conclude with the last one, which I think is directly an answer to your question. Has the training generated results for other people in businesses like yours? Really, how much? What kind of results can I expect? And hold the trainer to that. If not, send them away and say, come back when you can talk about that. Is it the right training for my staff? Based on audits of your customer base, audits of your staff skills, is it exactly what I need? Is it really training? Will it give my people a chance to apply and practice what they're learning? And then does it provide reinforcement tools that I can use with my people? And there's the key. It's a leadership responsibility not only to select the right training and make it happen, but also to reinforce it after it happens. And leaders participating in the training have a leg up on their ability to do that. They know what people have been trained to do, how they're supposed to do it, can reinforce it when they see it happen or fix it if they don't.
Very good. Brian, I appreciate very much you spending some time with this valuable information. It seems like the time is right for many, many retailers to take a step in this direction.
I certainly hope so. It'll improve business.
Very good. Brian Gracon Associates, thanks very much for spending some time.
You're welcome, Dave. Thank you.
And this is Talk Floor TV.